Marcy, he's Wakefield.
Hello.
Hi.
Pleasure to meet you. My name is
Here you go.
Nice to
poet.
meet you.
You're right here, we.
Thank you, man.
A poet and didn't know it.
No, I knew it.
We had some kind of little rhyme that we used to have in England about being a poet and didn't know it. I can't remember what it was now.
I only know that part.
Yeah.
This is for you got a drink and stuff. You're
I
good?
do. I'm
You
good.
want
Thank
some
you.
water, Aaron? You good?
I'm good, I got my coffee.
Cool. Aaron is smart. So Vern is on his way as well.
Screwburn.
It looks like the snow really had everybody take a little bit more time to.
Yeah.
It was a lot last night.
Yeah.
We went out to a little event last night on the 17th. We got home and I cleared the path, and you might.
You wouldn't even know.
You wouldn't even know.
I shoveled twice actually.
Mhm.
Did you?
I did a whole bunch of shit. Went gym, came home, shoveled. Before I could go back out, shoveled. And I was like, this
Wow.
morning I walked out. I was like, fuck you. I said, no way, man.
One of our
Just did it.
3 little rescues is tiny. She's 3
She's-
pound, and she's
her legs are about this long.
she's cleared a path off the deck this morning, so she's
To be living
Trying
a
to take a
life from
shit
that
with-
perspective, no?
you're trying to take
Totally.
a crap with your ass in the snow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Totally.
Poor girl.
No doubt. Oh man, it's rough. You just can't get away from it. It's always around.
You just can't get away from it.
Doesn't matter where you go.
So,
So we went to this little retail entrepreneurship venture last night. She sells the most beautiful
Scarves,
artistic
yeah.
storytelling scarves you've ever seen in your life.
I've heard of her before.
Wow.
Chinese girl who was
I've
An
heard
engineer.
of her.
Beyond
But-
Scarf is
Yeah.
the name of the
They
business.
really, I mean, they're
I mean, she doesn't do
beautiful.
the scarves.
No,
They're
just-
from England and Paris.
But she puts the designs on them.
No, she doesn't
She
do
just
that
brings
either.
them in.
She just
She
curates
curates,
it.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But holy
Wow.
expensive.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like what's
Scarves.
we're talking about?
$1,200.
Oh my God.
Woo!
Yeah. I picked a nice one up last night. I thought, oh, we'll get it for Marcy and support it. So with a discount, that's $302.
And I'm like, dude, I
but
don't want it that badly.
I'm not against
No, it's
spending
super
an arm.
surprising.
But you have to
However-
love it.
That's
I
right,
have
man.
to love it to
At
spend
that price?
$300.
You gotta really love it. Yeah.
It comes up as a that's
That's a
not an
lux-
issue.
Yeah.
That's a,
Like I just want it.
Yeah.
that's a luxury item where you gotta really love it.
Yeah, and it really takes something in today's world
As long as
to
it's
really
orange.
love something. to
Right.
that level,
Orange.
You know?
Well,
What's up, Isabella? We're not starting yet, but you can't come down here again, right?
I think it might be my jeans that smell of gas. I can smell gas in my car. I filled the car up on the way. And I can't figure it out. Yeah, I think it's my
Is
jeans.
that-
I must have spilled it right
Maybe.
Controllers.
I can't see.
and that's all day now, right?
Yeah.
Watching you play, so it's
All
no-
day.
Go do something else. You can play later.
All right. I have poetry to drop.
Sitting watching. It's
Oh,
not
that'd be
actually
good.
fun.
Do we have a theme today?
I
or is
have
this-
no idea.
Is this winging it again?
I think we're winging it.
I don't know.
Wow.
We got sent a bunch of questions which we were reluctant to answer.
I could tell by the fact that it took so long.
Well,
And,
work's been hellish busy. so-
Well, and the brevity of it too.
yeah, well, it's like,
And it's perfect. I got exactly what I needed.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
the
all
second
good.
I get asked certain questions, I feel myself becoming inauthentic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then
you
I'm
start
like,
trying
no,
to
I'm not
manufacture
doing
an
it.
answer that
Yeah.
you think, I wouldn't know, I can't say that.
Yeah.
But then if you're just in conversation, you're going to say it and worry about it afterwards. Because we run retreats and speak in business sometimes, and we have a script, but we get off it almost immediately.
Great. It's funny how that goes. So, Wake,
Yeah.
I want just for you to be mindful. If you were to scoot your chair in, like about like there, then you're always in camera.
You got it.
So you just can't move your chair.
I just can't move my chair. Done.
I'm always trying to figure out the best spot for the cameras because we're dealing with. It's still very DIY, right?
Yeah.
That'd be Isle of Man TT,
I would love to be able to answer that question. I have no idea. But it looks
Looks
cool.
like it. The Isle of Man, you know what the Isle of Man TT is?
I do not.
It's a race on a little island just off the coast of England, and it's been going since motorbikes were invented. It's famous because on the Sunday of the race, it's a road race through narrow roads right around the island and very fast. On Sunday, they open the track to anybody. It's called Mad Sunday,
really?
yeah.
Wow.
And every year, like
You got to be you got to vet yourself.
you'd have to be crazy because there's stone walls along the side of the. There's no
Just for motorcycles?
barrier. Oh yeah, there's
So
no
you can't bring a vehicle like a car
no
there?
side. Well, you can regularly but they do sidecar racing on it too, which is scary.
Oh my goodness, I couldn't even imagine being in the sidecar. You got no control there. There's nothing for you to do.
No.
Except like...
Which
When
is a
you
good
are-
metaphor
you
for
have a-
life, really.
You actually are pretty active because you've got to move across the sidecar. As it corners right, you go over to the left to hold it down.
Counterbalance and whatnot.
Yeah, so it's so they normally
You're
try
somehow involved, but not much.
Totally.
they're active, yeah, they're
Millimeters.
pretty important. They
So how
try-
much room do you got in that? Because I have it that like you're in there and you can't really do
Well,
much.
that's a regular
The
sidecar. The
bobsled.
racing sidecars are like a flat platform with
Oh my god.
a streamline of nose on the
Bouging
front.
down the road.
So I think they must hook themselves in because it would just throw them off because they're doing 120 miles an hour plus.
Dude. And this is called what?
It's just sidecar racing, but the Isle of Man TT.
Isle of Man.
but
Good morning,
sidecar
good morning.
racing-
What's up, man?
Good morning.
How's everybody?
Good.
Doing well, how you doing?
Hi, I'm Vern.
Hi, I met you at David's thing.
Oh,
Tony, I met you there
Doing
too.
that again.
Marcy.
Marcy.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you again. My man, how are you?
Above, because that's just
Up
dangerous.
Above? Well, I like to live dangerously. Oh, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I'm gonna ask you as well, Aaron, just to when everybody gets settled in here, just to double check the cameras and see that everybody's.
Do we have a theme today? Wakefield
No.
was asking. I'm like, I don't know.
There's never a theme, guys, ever.
It emerges
Never.
after or during.
Yes,
That's
just
right.
have a look
We
at
get
the
to create
cameras
the
and
theme
Yeah.
right here, right now.
see where we're at.
Let me just move this up because if Vern's standing, then
Yeah, you're a bit tall. You can see it better than I can. It'll be like I think it's coming.
So on slam poetry, if I just pick a couple of nights and we start working towards that, if you guys are interested, that'll make us move the project forward.
If we pick some nights.
Yeah, so maybe towards the end of January or something.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, man.
'Cause we need
Throw
to-
your hat over the fence and
Go
I
for
figure
it.
out how to get it.
So,
Yeah, that's my preferred route.
let's talk about this word slam.
I don't know what it
Because
means.
people throw it around.
Yeah.
Word slam versus slam poetry, or
It's just the word slam.
okay.
So, if you're looking to run a slam poetry night, slam poetry versus performance poetry,
Okay.
okay? Because what you did wasn't slam poetry,
No.
but it was definitely engaging,
Mhm.
and that's performance. So when you say slam, you're going to attract exactly just that. You're going to attract just slam crowd.
Okay.
Some people don't like the slam crowd. Okay? I do well everywhere, but I'm a chameleon on the mic. So it's performance poetry that you're looking at.
Okay.
I'm just saying you gotta be a little careful in case people think, oh, it's competition time,
Oh.
or it's, you get what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You want them
It's
to
got its
get
own
the
culture,
idea
if you're
that
aware of.
it
And
could
you don't
be
want-
storytelling,
Mhm.
performance, hardcore, high energy. You know what I mean?
And you don't want the slam crowd thinking it's slam,
It's
and
just
then
slamming
they come and
and
it's
then
not
it's
what
like-
they're wanting.
Exactly.
What we
It'll
would
pitch
like
it.
to do is introduce the culture of poetry to the
Yeah,
theatre
in general.
in general.
Yeah, I think
So we've got
that's-
some traditional poets who want to come in too.
That would be awesome. It's like a full.
Smorgasbord.
A
Yeah.
smorgasbord.
You want the array.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
if you use slam, that's exactly what people would.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
One of the older
Good to
guys
know.
said we should have like a poet off. Yeah. See, do
And
it
which
on
is
the
a slam.
fly.
I'm
Yeah.
visualizing Eminem
Which
in
is
8 Mile.
Which is a slam.
And,
Something like that.
and
Maybe
Duval
other
Lang,
times.
who's like a 60-year-old
Right.
poet and
Yeah.
an
Actor.
actor.
Did you get the coffee yet? Because
No,
there's
no.
coffee
I'm
upstairs.
still trying to get present
Grounded?
with my reality. I just definitely banged out about 90 minutes of shoveling, and I'm like, my heart rate's like through the roof.
No, you need to get that shit down, dude.
And this is heart attack snow. It's wet.
Oh yeah, well it was like
Heart
I
attacks.
came outside, I like brushed off the car and warmed up the car, and then I was looking at my walk and I'm like, I can't leave that.
Yeah.
So in Vancouver, that's what they call it because the snow is wet down there. So
Yeah.
usually it's heavy and
It's
they
brutal.
call it
Yeah,
heart
you
attack
can-
snow.
It didn't last very long, thankfully, but if you were up in...
Powder's okay, but this stuff is wet.
My trick is to, I just go like I gash at the top
Yeah.
of the snow.
Oh, you
hit the
work your
bottom,
way down.
and then I sweep
Nice.
it with an actual push broom.
He's got it.
Just because I don't like to have heart
Strategy.
attacks. Yeah, so, but we're good. We're totally good.
And you can totally go grab yourself coffee.
Yeah, I will do that though.
Yeah.
I will definitely do that part.
It's there for you.
I'll be back.
I'm assuming you guys are good with water. You
Yeah.
have a little bit more over there. And yeah, one of the things that, so there's always a preamble before we start the podcast because we don't ever really talk about anything
Yeah.
and we talk about everything.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I'm exploring here is in really having people feel comfortable and kind of at home, like what can you put here to make that experience? And so having food, we talked about having joints there, because on Thursday,
A whole lot of spliffs.
yeah, on Thursday we all got together, and it's been 3 weeks probably since you had been hanging out with us,
Yeah.
right? So
Since
stuff going on
Toronto.
in the world. And so we just had the cameras going and the mics going and just talked. And it took some time to kind of like let this stuff disappear and then be
Get
with
into it,
conversation. And it really takes that. It's like, what else can you do to encourage that?
To
To
expedite
nurture
that.
that. Not necessarily expedite it, because everybody's got their own thing that they got to get through, right, in order to be with the conversation. And how do you just make that super easier for everyone? Because there's been times where we've had people on here, first time ever being on a podcast, and they are freaking out. But we didn't notice it.
Right.
We just kind of like went into it, and he's just trying to keep it
Shake.
together,
Yeah.
right? And the podcast was a challenge.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa, what happened there? We didn't even really realize it. So we got to forget that. I forget that not everybody is where I'm at necessarily, or where we're at,
Yeah.
and how do we create that space? So, yeah, I don't know yet. I think some food would always be good. Obviously, water, and I still keep forgetting about it too. So
Yeah.
it's a work in progress.
Like a bowl of jelly beans.
A bowl of jelly beans.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be.
Even in the morning, you think that's
Yeah.
too much? Or maybe like because it's the holiday seasons, we don't have too many.
Baking. There's
Some bacon.
smells.
Baking, the
There's
smell of
memories
bacon.
that are attached to the
Yes.
smells.
Hot pot of coffee, where you can smell the coffee.
Yeah,
Even just the
love
beans.
Yeah, beans are big.
beans. Okay, so these are brilliant. I hadn't even considered it.
They're, you can try them, right?
Yeah. Because I really want to create that. And when you come into a place and you smell that, for me anyways, you smell
Bread.
that coffee.
It's
Baking
comforting.
bread's another one like that.
My mom
Somehow brings memories to you.
Yeah. Well, and a level of comfort and safety, right?
Yeah.
Like you're good here.
Which is bizarre, but
Yeah, totally. Well, the deep subconscious of that.
I'm really confused about the toilet paper.
You're confused with toilet paper? I'd rather use that than my sleeve.
You haven't got long sleeves on, they won't reach.
That's my point. It's super awkward, so
So how are we doing on audio?
Okay, I thought maybe it was there was a
Cool.
true reason
Oh,
for it.
Okay, we're ready to
Yeah.
start.
Sort of throw it
The
out
thing,
somewhere
the thing
there.
we least like talking about usually is business.
All good.
I'm not talking about business.
Yeah, that's the thing we usually least like talking about.
Well,
However,
you know,
just-
it's ironic that you say that because your bios were all about your business.
But
Well-
they're business bios.
Because we scrape them from
yeah,
something
Yeah,
else.
we had to put them, because if we've spoken or run a retreat, they want our bios beforehand and they want to know your
Like with
credibility.
legitimacy,
Totally.
yeah.
So like, have you actually ever run a business? Or if you're talking about entrepreneurship, you hear it a lot, like some guy who has never actually run a business is suddenly an expert speaker.
His business is to tell you how to run a business.
Yeah.
And
And then you pay him.
Yeah,
Like, with a lot
that's what it is. But we don't actually we've never written a life bio.
You know,
Which is a good
I
exercise,
think so.
possibly.
I've done a lot of that work. It's and look at it often because it's inside the work that I do in my real life. It always requires that conversation to be put on the table for everybody. So I'm always looking and truing it up and
I'm super confused right now.
about bios.
No, because I thought this was your real life.
Yeah, I was just
I'm
thinking
just
that.
kind of
this
being like, what does he mean by that?
this
'Cause
is
I don't
alternative reality.
have I seen the real life. I'm curious.
I mean, that's the story I got running.
Who are you even?
Yes. I mean, that is the question.
That is the question. That's why we're all here after all.
I can't remember my point now.
Sorry about that. I do that sometimes.
When Derek came.
Yes.
So Derek Mann's from Studio Hands, no, Stagehand. He's got a really cool platform, helps artists
Right.
be known in Calgary. Right?
I
Like
think
they
he
create a platform for-
contacted you recently.
Yeah, he's a good guy to talk to for sure. And he came on and he gave me his bio and it was like
Oh yeah.
rich with
Yeah.
experience. I'm like, yeah, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a really, now I know what you
It
do.
was very professional.
Yes.
And
Now
if
tell
you're
me
gonna-
who you
If
are.
you're gonna hire him for engineering, you definitely want to.
Yeah, well, that's normally what you get when you ask for, can you send your bio and a picture? You get
Yeah, totally.
the realtor picture.
Yeah, it's super staged and not that there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
And what I asked for afterwards, I'm like, this is great. Here's actually what I really want.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, now you've got me thinking.
So generally, if I'm asked for a bio in business, they don't want to know I'm a recovering alcoholic.
Definitely
I
not.
normally doesn't play well into the conversation.
Which is
Right. Well, the
Which is
stigmas that
silly.
show, it is.
Right.
It
It's
is.
really silly.
You know, there's an interesting thing about being coming out as an alcoholic in business. It's more challenging than coming out as a gay man because you're immediately attached with a risk stigma.
Yeah.
We got a problem here. When you're
Yeah.
drinking, it's not a problem. Like that, when you're robbing the company of expense money, you're not a problem. You're just a heavy drink. When you actually say, "I've got a problem," and the company says, "Well, maybe you need to go to treatment and rehab," you're suddenly a human resource problem. You come out as a gay man, it's like, "Oh well."
Milestone and
Yeah,
kind of move forward.
Yeah,
from
we'll
there.
move forward. But as an alky, suddenly you're assessed as a business risk.
Oh, man.
There's
And
a
then
whole
there's
bunch.
the rest of your life, because I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict.
Yeah.
So
Then there's the
I
rest of
hear
it.
what you're saying,
Yeah.
but then there's the rest of your life.
There is. So, I mean, even last night we were at a little event and our social media manager from the theatre was there and she said, "Oh, I better get Tony a glass of water." And we've had instances where they say, everybody's got wine, but Tony doesn't drink.
Makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah, they go, well,
Yeah.
it's a weirdness around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because everyone's curious now, like, well, why doesn't he drink?
Yeah,
But
which should
that's-
be the most normal thing in the
Yeah, it's like,
world.
well, he chooses not to.
It actually
Right.
doesn't
Well,
matter.
I actually do drink, I just don't drink alcohol.
Yeah, fair enough. There you go, right?
But
Context is decisive.
it's a strange, and you'll know it's a strange, it's a strange dynamic. And I think when
Yeah.
you're viewed as a pot smoker, they change their view of you.
Yep.
Like,
It's not a pot smoker.
yeah, but it does. People will start to associate you with this.
Some are cool, some are not.
I don't care either way. but
Yeah.
Yeah,
I tried it one time, but
You didn't inhale.
well, it messed up my drinking, so I didn't do it.
Big battles.
My drug of choice was the alcohol.
Yeah, it messed up my drinking too. It makes me drink far less,
Well,
which is
I didn't know what was going on in my head. I didn't like it very much.
yeah. I get that.
Alcohol's predictable.
Yeah,
marijuana
yeah.
can be
You know
the
what that's.
opposite.
I know what that is.
Yeah, for
Anyway.
sure.
All right, so we're
That's
going to start. Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome to episode 49 of the Just Life podcast. We are visited by two very special people on this snowy Saturday morning. One was a former soldier and elite athlete. The other, a ballerina and recovering lawyer. From being held hostage by a Mexican cartel at the end of a gun barrel to battling with the raging burn of alcoholism and tasked by the fear of raising children alone. They are a husband and wife power team who've seen a lot together and do even more as a team to help each other and those around them to surrender to uncertainty and stand confidently in their heart's purpose, showing what it takes to be able to give up the act of trying to always live up to other people's expectations. I'm sure you get this often, and I admire and respect how you two show up in the world with the ease and grace that you have. It's a magical experience for us to see, and I'm left inspired by what it takes to be able to embrace the weights of our mistakes and chase the magic of life that waits. So, I'm done now. And good morning, Tony and Marcy. Thank you for joining us.
Morning. Thank you for having us.
Good morning, Dave.
Yeah, This, so I feel like I have to say this. We don't get enough acknowledgement in the journey that we've gone through to like the time way back when. I just keep coming back to this. It's like you're coming into the castle, you're being introduced to the king, and there is like who you are as being recognized and acknowledged in front of everybody. And what would life be like if we actually got that kind of acknowledgement every time we entered a new group of people? That people actually got us in a way that isn't, so what do you do? Which is why I do this. Because it is not what we do. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really good to be here.
Excellent. We're excited.
What do you got to say, buddy?
In general, about what you said, or just good morning to the people?
Just
listening?
good morning, whatever's there for you, man.
My name is Wakefield Brewster. I'm a poet. I am very excited to be with Marcy and Tony because of what you guys want to bring. And I would like to be a part of that because it sounds like the art of word via you at Creative Mornings the other day has inspired you to want more words happening around you, and you want to facilitate that, and I would like to help be that big mouth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just can't wait to have poetry in Calgary's beautiful Grand Theatre. I just can't wait.
Be super cool. It sounds like you two have a lot to write about. That was a pretty interesting bio.
She's like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
This is not what I signed up for.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I sometimes think, and I've always sort of thought that I live an unremarkable life, and I don't mean that in a I feel sorry for myself sort of way.
You mean it in a human being type way, like you're not
Right.
special.
Right. And that, weird stuff doesn't happen in my life, or it hasn't taken any weird trajectories, but maybe when I look at it, when I hear David say that stuff, I think it probably has.
Yeah, it shifts the perspective a little bit. Like, wait, is
Yeah.
that me? Is
Yeah.
that about me?
Right.
Wow, I'm pretty special.
Yeah. The things that really define us in our journeys, and then we kind of dismiss them. Not kind of, we just dismiss them. And to somebody else, it's like mind-blowingly, I can't believe that's even something that somebody had to deal with, could deal with, was left to deal with, right? Like, and the reality is all of us got so many of those stories.
Yeah. People who are saying that to you are sitting on something just like that.
Yeah.
And they because it's their normal, so they just think, oh yeah, well that's not a big deal. I mean, we got through it, right?
Exactly.
But oh wow, you were held at gunpoint. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, so I actually do want that. But you, by the way, this is all about you guys, so you're welcome to share whatever you want to
Do you
share.
want to hear the gunpoint story?
That's a great way to start. Why not start off with a bang?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Sorry about the pun.
Yeah.
Sorry
So-
about the pun.
So, I guess there's a little bit of a backstory. So, Tony and I had built a business and sold it to a big insurance company. And we worked, we were then hired on by that company, and we were making money hand over fist, and we started to get fairly self-important, or at least I felt, and looking back, I feel that I got very self-important.
I think I was way more self-important.
Well,
That's a
and
great disagree.
started attaching to titles and the amount of money in the bank account and different benefits and bonuses and all of those things that typically define people. And but truthfully, deep down, I never felt that I was doing what I should be doing. I always felt that what we were doing was sort of meaningless, but having the bank account was honestly a huge grab, and the title that I had was very impressive to my family and to maybe people that I knew previously, and it seemed like the right trajectory to be on. So that's sort of the backstory. So we had a bit of cash burning a hole in our pocket, and so we bought a resort in Mexico. And on the day we inked the deal, the universe put us in a situation where we were out for dinner celebrating, and we were with I don't know, about 40 friends.
Wow.
And it wasn't purely a celebration for that, but anyway, we're in this restaurant and everyone's enjoying themselves, drinking wine and whatever. And the maitre d' comes into the section of the restaurant that we were in, and we took up the whole restaurant. And he was sweating profusely and took a minute to realize what the hell was going on. But I looked up and he was right in front of me and he had a gun to his head. And so
this is at the celebration dinner.
Yeah, so the maitre d' had a gun to his head. And so then shit got real.
As they say.
Right,
Yeah. Wow.
and a few more guys entered the restaurant, each carrying a different variety of gun.
I was away at this time
Yeah.
in the washroom having a pee
He-
and whistling tunes, and
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on.
It's all good, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So then my, you start to perk up, and if you want to live in the moment, I'll tell you, you're in the moment, and those moments are like hours, seconds are like hours. And anyway, so the long and short of it was that they wanted a vehicle, and the person who owned the vehicle,
A very nice vehicle.
very nice, right? It wasn't a junker, and he was resisting, and therefore things escalated.
Was
Let's
this
put it that
person
way.
was part of your group?
Yes, yeah.
Perfect.
Personal friends
Like,
of the
give him
group.
the keys.
I
bro.
know.
Right.
Like-
He actually gave the keys to his wife, I think, at that point, or threw them in the pool. I can't remember.
Oh.
Anyway, the situation escalated. He did what he felt was right in the
Yeah,
moment, and that's neither here nor there. But things escalated, and we were then put onto the ground. So it started with, the head gunman was wanting the keys to the storming of other people. They just wanted cash at first, so they were just robbing us of cash and phones because they didn't want anything recorded. And it turned into us laying on the ground with guns to the backs of our heads. There wasn't 40 of them, but there was sort of
One's good enough for
assigned
me.
guys per group
One's
of
good
people.
enough.
Right, and then
And I'm still having a pee.
it turned
Well,
into.
imagine your surprise, eh? Wow. I can't wait to hear your perspective.
It turned into almost like a comedy. It was so ridiculous. Like it was insane.
It's gotta be an awkward thing. It must be weird when you're the gun. Okay, now everybody lay down. Like that's just gotta be weird for everybody.
Right, and of course there's a language barrier as well. And then
I'm sorry, what?
the threats started escalating.
Yeah.
And luckily I
totally.
didn't understand them, but a friend of ours was very, very upset by what was saying. They were going to take the women and
I think
rape
your dad
us
was
and-
changing his hearing aid back
Right,
then.
my dad missed the whole thing and asked me what was going on, although he was
Why are you guys
sitting right
laying
beside me. Yeah, why is everyone under the table?
Yeah, I just want to
He
eat.
thought they were collecting tips, I think, or
Uh,
something.
Oh wow.
Or something. Anyway,
Wow.
I mean, at the beginning, because it is very surreal.
Sure,
So it takes
yeah,
everyone
like,
a moment
what
to
is
realize
going
what
on?
in the hell is going on. So I'll let Tony interject with sort of his.
Is this about the
side
time
of
when
it.
you were getting
Well,
ready to pee,
I had
or-
washed my hands and I was coming back with my hands in my pockets, and I thought they were playing games or something.
Someone lost
I
a
thought,
contact lens?
Why is everybody lying on the ground? And this guy stepped round the corner of the kitchen and made me kneel down, pointing a revolver at me, and put the gun in my mouth.
in your mouth?
Yeah, like this. And he wanted my watch. And I have a watch, it's my traveller watch. I bought it in San Francisco for like $8 in Chinatown or something.
Yeah, you're
So
like,
he gets hold of my watch and looks at it and threw it away in disgust.
So we still have the watch.
We still have the
love
watch.
Nice.
he's probably like, why does this white guy have this cheap piece of shit? What is with this
Exactly. Where's the real one?
So I'm, as Marcy said, it's very surreal. And what's going through my head is the scene in Snatch in the bar where the three guys walk in and Vinnie Jones as Tony Bullet Tooth He's in the bar, and they're trying to hold him up with a replica gun, and he's got a Desert Eagle point whatever. And he looks at their gun, and it's got replica written down the side. And for some reason, I started looking at the side of the revolver in my mouth to see if it had replica on it. I don't know why I did that, but that's how my brain reacted at that point. I thought that scene was flashing through my head, and then I then start to realise this is actually not a replica. And a replica would probably blow my head off anyway, but I started worrying about Marcy being taken, and I'm making plans to throw a big bucket of hot charcoal on them if they attempted. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that
Well, just
my mind
what are you gonna do? Like, just let them? Oh, okay. Well, maybe we'll catch up with you. Like, no, that's not how that's gonna go. Right?
But she wasn't going to be leaving with them. That's how my head was.
Over my dead body.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, not to make a long story longer, but eventually the maitre d' actually was taken hostage, which was really, really awful. It wasn't one of us. It was someone who was more vulnerable to begin with.
Yeah, no kidding.
He was dumped off a few miles down, unharmed.
Well, that's good.
And thank God for that. And but as they were leaving with him, and we didn't actually know it was chaos, right? As you can imagine, it was chaos. But a German Shepherd, I kid you not, like came out of the darkness, this massive Alsatian,
And bit one of the
and
dogs.
attacked one of the guys, and he shot at it and missed it. And then all of a sudden they were gone, and then we knew that
So
had been
the
taken.
shepherd had them in a panic
attacked
and they freaked out.
Yeah,
and left.
Dude, that is
like guardian angel type stuff.
yeah.
That is.
I think our biggest worry at the time was that the Mexican police would show up.
Because then
Because
things get really ugly, right?
then it
The
would have
guns
kind of
start
like not,
going.
not,
Would have been
not
told-
tolerating and you just
would have been
kinda-
totally out of control.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
It would have been a shootout type
Between
thing.
the cartel and
Right,
the
yeah, yeah,
police.
Yeah, so
Which is
we're kind of hoping that they don't show until the robbers are down the road somewhere.
Right. No kidding.
They're a little loose with the trigger.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's how the journey started.
For me, I mean, it affected,
Wow.
this whole thing affected Tony in a very different way than it did me. And I didn't think that it affected me because we went, we finished off our holiday and it was stressful. I kind of never wanted to go back again, didn't know how that would play out. But we came home and we still had our jobs and we were building a business. And so we just got on with shit. And it wasn't really something that came to mind. I had a hard time talking about it. We were also keeping it on the down low.
Yeah, it's not a thing, nothing
Yeah.
happened.
Right, and also because we were running a business there. We have a resort.
Right.
Yeah, it's safe here.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Which I had serious problems.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
especially when you're
With
experienced.
not being completely honest
No kidding.
about that.
It's
So
not
we
like
all-
people go there and get held up at gunpoint
Yeah.
restaurants or anything. Like, right?
Right.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
so then for me, some strange stuff started happening. Probably maybe even 6 months later, I started avoiding like the bank. I started having panic attacks and things like that, getting onto airplanes, and nothing that really made sense. And I truthfully did not make
You
any
didn't-
sort of connection at all. And I realized that I had this, the only thing that I can liken it to is like a hot coal in my stomach at all times. So that's kind of that weird thing you get when you're anxious, but it was all the time. And so it was very uncomfortable for me, and confronting it was nothing that I wanted to do. I didn't want to see counselors and anything like that. And also, I didn't know what the hell it was.
Right.
I thought it was just work stress. And like
Right.
probably 8 or 10 months later, I started realizing, strangely after reading Amanda Lindhout's stories, do you guys know who she
I'm
is?
not familiar.
Let's be honest. What I experienced is not in the realm of what she
Is
experienced.
she from
but
Alberta?
She is,
Right
and
here?
she was taken hostage.
I saw her speak
in
once.
Somalia.
It was pretty intense.
So it was the
Yeah.
first time that I had heard PTSD, and I thought, shit, that's what I have. And then the journey sort of started for me.
So just for context, like approximately how long ago was this?
I think it was 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So definitely want to hear more about that if you're willing to share. But I'm curious to know what this was all like for you. And if this is like drumming up stuff for you guys,
Not at all.
totally
No.
Once we got home, I mean, even being down there after the robbery is a bit surreal. Like we kind of locking our doors and we're putting new bolts on the gates. Our caretaker at the property we own down there was in a big panic, and but I reacted in a different way to Marcy. I think I almost completely shut down. Like I almost completely shut it out of my head. I made light of it. Treated it as just another thing that would happen in your life. So what started to happen with me was I had bumpy sleep patterns. I got irritable. I got a little impatient. I felt like my masculinity was bigger than this incident somehow. And I grew up in an Irish family. My father's from Northern Ireland. We had a lot of bomb and gun problems during the Troubles, both in England and in Northern Ireland. So my father raised me, and he's a powerful man, to not ever express feelings or worries or hurt. You work. If you're broke, you work. If you're upset, you work. If you're divorced, you work. And you work and drink and work. And so I've been in recovery for some years at this point. I'm not sure how many, over a decade. So I actually started doubling down on going to meetings.
And when that incident happened?
Yeah, sometime afterwards, because I
you noticed something was going on.
Not really. I think, Marcy and I have a very close spiritual relationship as well as a marriage. And Marcy's not afraid in the gentlest and kindest possible way to say, like, you're not behaving like you normally do. Maybe you should. So that really helps me.
I send him to meetings.
Yeah.
Or
It's time.
you're doing dumb shit.
Yeah, that's so important and it's so critical to be able to stand powerfully there because you love him. That's it. Nothing else.
People are so quick to be like, well, this isn't working anymore. I'm out.
Yeah.
It's so weird how we're in love and we like expect that to be the glue that keeps everything together for the next 60 years. It's kind of weird. People don't think that there might be some work involved, or you might actually have to sacrifice something or support the person or that kind of thing. Right?
I won't speak for Marcy, but I believe that our spiritual connection is much deeper than the word love.
But more so
since then,
this sort of this blip in our lives has changed everything, I think. And it wasn't just the robbery, because stuff happened after too.
Sure.
To add insult to injury, when we sort of thought we were through all of this stuff, or I guess we didn't think we were through the emotional stuff, but again, we were head first into work and building a business, and the company that we sold to shut it down in one afternoon. They came in and pulled the rug out and said, we're shutting the our non-core Canadian divisions, and you're done. So all of a sudden,
5 years of entrepreneurship gone,
and it completely exposes you, because the thing that I was using and he was using to escape dealing with the discomfort around the PTSD or whatever you want to call it, that thing was now completely removed.
Identity.
Yeah,
everything.
One moment we were CEO and COO of a federally approved insurance company, and next moment we were not. We were Tony and Marcy.
You mean your other life was gone?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
the thing by which all around us measured
success,
who we were as people and how successful we were, it was gone in 15 minutes. So
Wow.
yeah, so I think that added to the Mexico incident really started to have us dig much deeper into ourselves individually and ourselves as a couple and our relationship with God or higher power or Allah or Buddha, whatever you want to call it. And we have different views and a different relationship with that. But it's changed our lives completely as individuals and as a couple, I think.
Yeah, I think so. When the robbery happened, I don't even know if that's the right thing to call it. I hate calling it the robbery.
Hold up.
The
This is a stick up.
the stick up. I like that. So when the stick up happened, I mean, it's sort of cliche, but you do start thinking, like, in those moments, like, is this a sign? That's the first thing. So is it a sign? I survived. What am I supposed to do with this?
Right.
I mean, it's a bit dramatic to say I survived because lots
Well,
of
but
people
still.
survive this
No,
stuff.
I don't.
No,
I
there
don't
was a
think it's
bullet
that
for
dramatic.
everyone.
You said
Right.
lots of people, and let's say there's 100,000 cases. Well, we're talking about 7 billion people here.
Right.
Or even if it's just North America, I mean, you got people vacationing and stuff. Hopefully, it's a pretty low percentage of people getting held up.
Let's hope.
Right, and surviving.
Yeah.
So I think it's a pretty big deal. But
Right.
What is strange, we were in Vancouver a few weeks afterwards, and in the Sheraton Wall Centre downtown, beautiful hotel right in the middle of the nicest area of Vancouver. The 2 international women's soccer teams are staying there. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, a guy in the restaurant there, sitting having tea or drinks or something. Guy walks in, shoots him in the back of the head and leaves. So we attributed it to Mexico. However, in context, Mexico is no more dangerous than, Vancouver at that time was riddled with gang warfare, and so was Calgary. So, it's not about Mexico, it's about the moment, I think. And
yeah, I suppose,
Yeah.
because if you were there, that would have been a traumatic experience for
Totally.
whoever was there.
Right.
So
And you
they
forget
survived
about
it.
that. They survive it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it's given me a lot of empathy too for people who survive, any kind of trauma, but this type of trauma, because my view has always been, oh, well, you're lucky. And of course you're lucky. But it doesn't mean that you don't suffer some degree of trauma.
Yeah.
But sort of the point that I was getting at before was, so you have those moments in an event like that where you think, what are you supposed to do with this, etc. And then we went back to work and I didn't
Back to real
address
life.
any of it. And so then I feel like us losing the business for both of us was like the universe just slapping us in the face. Like, I told you this
Yeah, you got to deal with
at
this
the
thing.
robbery. I told you. I don't even think it was telling us to deal with
Oh,
the
the-
emotions. I think it was telling us that you're
Something's
not
off.
meant to be doing what you're doing.
Right.
So dig deep
Right.
and look at something else. Look at how you can impact the
Stop
world
using
or
this,
people.
start using this.
Right.
yeah,
exactly.
I think God, whatever
You can use God.
choose,
God's
yeah,
cool. We're cool with God.
kind of said life is fragile. You can come and go, and all that work, professional title, BMW stuff, that's not who you are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love
So
that.
we had 2 incidents, and that we feel they were both linked.
Absolutely.
And the morning after the business was closed, we just got in the car and went to Kelowna, and we had a period of mourning because suddenly we're not the same people we thought we were
Yeah, absolutely.
yesterday.
And it was shameful. We felt shame around losing it. I was very ashamed to tell my family. I'm an only kid and the first person to go this far from a corporate standpoint.
And a lawyer who had decided to take an entrepreneurial journey,
Right.
which is, that's unusual.
Yeah. All
You
these,
got as a lawyer.
all these real life pressures we put on ourselves.
Right.
Interesting.
So anyway, we took a
Wow.
year. We took a year to. I don't even know. There was no plan. We took a year off though. We decided we were going to take a year off, and in that year we explored ourselves a lot.
Yeah, I think you should talk about the garage sale on the road trip. There was a changing
Right.
moment.
Yeah.
Can we hold the garage
Yeah.
sale for 1
Sure.
second? Because I feel like Wakefield's bursting.
Yeah, he is.
I was just over here absorbing this.
Well, I want to hear, because there was something that connected with you over here when they had mentioned that, BMWs, this, that, and the other thing. That's not actually you. So I saw something connect with you there, and this is like what we've been talking about. It's the theme of the podcast. Is the theme of our lives. We're going. I've been talking to Dave about this idea of like, why am I working 40, 50, 60 hours a week and then spending 10 or 20 hours doing what I love and being with my family? That is ridiculous. Like, we got to do a paradigm shift here. So that's what we're taking on. And I'm curious to know what Wakefield's feeling right now about your share.
A lot of this you can attach numbers to. Numbers all over that story. A lot of them are the money numbers. A lot of them are time numbers. I don't have a great relationship with numbers mathematically, but I've got some pretty good life math. And I just heard numbers flying through that, like all I could hear, I could just hear stuff, things, and numbers. So I happen to have this poem called Death by Numbers. And the reason I wrote it is because there's a ton of numbers out there that we pay attention to, that are supposed to be important. Financial numbers, but being number one, being top 5, top 10, top 40, right? I mean, there's all kinds of lucky number 7, unlucky 13, 666. There's all kinds of fucking numbers around that don't do shit.
420.
I smoke all day. So, and then there's these numbers that hide in plain sight. They're the ones that actually do help keep things in order, some semblance thereof. We gotta live together. There's 7 billion plus of us. So I just wrote this poem about numbers. It's called Death by Numbers. There must be something wrong with my arithmetic. This ill-divided world could truly make me sick. For all I've ever needed to learn in life has got my mental on the blunder. Every time I turn around, I'm being fooled by a number, schooled by a number. I once, twice, thrice heard that once 1 and 1 was 2, after 1 before 3, but it also was 11. And I uncovered nothing lucky but the fabled number 7, 4. Greed, lust, envy, sloth, gluttony, pride, and wrath. You do the math. We subtract from Mother Earth and then we start multiplying. Like a virus on the reckless while the earth keeps dying. Some of us wonder what we fucking keep on trying. Because no matter how much we got, we act like time be ticking hot. But truly this time, like an endless platoon, we be running out of room. We created 3 worlds cause we be running out of room. In the 3rd world, 4,000 children die daily, due diligence to disease, distemper, dementia, destruction, disdain, depression, despair, and dysfunction. And we be running out of room. The 2nd world, containing concepts of calculating communism, created the construct I meant in the Russian Cold War, and we be running out of room. In the 1st world, we've got appetites like gigabytes. Environmental pugilists keep losing fights because the man be fighting techno hippies with Knitsville and nanites, nesting in the blackest undercover of forest-filled nights, and we be running out of room. Glaciers receding, volcanoes exploding, the waters are bleeding, the soil is eroding, plate tectonics breaking down like ebonics, our cultures are broken, Mother Nature has spoken, and we be running out of room. H1N1, President Swine since 1999 claimed 23,000 in a very short time. Avian flu, grip 5,000 by 2. As plague bubonic, moved that rap supersonic. As tens of millions fell victim to chronic malaria and mosquitoes, numbered man by the millions, or they bred by the trillions. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. So saith the Shabbat, so saith the block. For Armageddon is upon us, my brothers and sisters. So saith the Shabbat, so saith the block. And we be running out of room. And then we aim for the stars to do the same shit to Mars. Cause we've been running out of room. We've been run by the numbers, like being run by the bulls. We've been done like dinner, but the belly never fulls. Planet number 3 is determined to devour planet number 4 of 9. It must bear the bounty and the brunt of 6.7 billion. It's fine time to farm more land to fight the foreseen famine that it fathered. As we kiss the windshields of our cars, we think to buckle up and why we never bothered. 100, merely a suggestion. To 140 makes speed a killer commitment. 2020 is perfect vision, but only sees in hindsight. Common sense ain't common till we see the bright lights. Stop! like a ticker on triple bypass. Come join the Zipper Club, like long grain rice with some NB in it. To save your fucking life, it only takes 5 minutes. As men in white attempt to play hands of God, tenuously trying to turn back time on 33 years of working 9 to 7, the fact you've been smoking since the age of 11, at least once every waking hour. Now at 5'4", you're squeezing 3, 2, 1 through your bathroom shower. Declining your 14 days to make 365 is the reason that you lied here and barely alive. You're being ruled by the numbers, and this time it was a leap year. It was 366 to put your sorry ass here. Now life is all but a stopwatch, quick ticking past the quintessential moments of your life. The quell to crest time creating catalytic strife. The space-time continuum has got you on the ripple by breaking life down to its last participle. Your position peels down like a cool calculator. Now the number 8 looks like a defibrillator. You've been mastered by the numbers, and finally infinity is realized by the letter C. Clear!
Whoa.
I was just thinking we need to get a prop mic so that he can drop one every time. That's just unbelievable, man. Wow.
I just feel I had a life-changing moment.
Isn't
right
that
there.
incredible?
I gotta be
It's
honest.
incredible.
Yeah. Wow. I do.
Was
Unforgettable.
there something there, like what, if you were to pull out what got created there for you, what is that? Can you put your thumb on it at all?
I actually can, because I love that, the whole discussion around numbers. I've grown up in a Western culture where you go to school, you get an education, you get a job, and you work till you retire if you survive that long.
Right.
And then you get some fund manager feeds you the money that you've earned over those years till some moment when you die.
That's been pre-calculated.
That's been pre-calculated
by an actuary.
by an insurance actuary. Like, how fucked is that? And like, it doesn't. None of that is actually real. You just become like this.
You become
a bee. You know, like the worker bee.
You fall in line.
Yeah, and you know, I get asked sometimes, what would I change in my life? I would love to have gone back to be 19 again and actually do something that mattered. You know, and I've had impact in my life outside of work, but all those hundreds of thousands of hours of expended being a banker, selling insurance, like, nobody wants it, nobody cares, nobody believes in it, and the only thing that ever mattered to me were the people who worked for me. That was it. So I really get it. Like there are children dying out there. You talked about that, and I didn't care. I might have given some money when there's a big, like,
the separation of the worlds.
Yes.
I mean, that is reality. That's what has happened. We are in different worlds.
But who invented that whole? When did somebody say, like, we're going to work in this tower and we're going to give you a great pension, you know, and we're going to make money out of you having that pension, and we're like, the whole thing doesn't make any sense.
At about 1956.
It could have been the year I was born. That's the year I was born.
It's all making sense.
But it really, none of that even makes sense when you look at it logically. But it made perfect sense when you're doing it, and then suddenly
you
you're
don't
in.
think about it. It's not that it doesn't make sense, because if you dare to stop and think about it, it completely shatters your.
Entrepreneurship wasn't a thing back then. It was like, if you were a mess, then you went and ran a business because you couldn't do anything else.
Marcy, you said something really interesting. You said that if you stop to think about it, it kind of falls apart. And it's been said that a man would rather die than think. And now we know why. Because you have to face the dark corners in your life that might not be working, or you have to realize that all this stuff that you thought was important is actually an illusion.
Yeah.
And that's really heavy, a big pill for people to swallow.
Well, and that's one that they did swallow.
Well, we did, absolutely.
right.
Like,
yeah.
you took the purple pill.
Yeah.
And it's like, now what?
Totally.
The garage
We
sale.
even built.
Yeah, the garage sale happened.
So they say, I don't know who they are, but they say
Hashtag the they.
Yeah,
We had a podcast about that.
There's a day somewhere.
when the student is ready, the teachers appear. So during the year, I think I turned 40 around that time. So also a time when a lot of people have quantum moments where they're forced to face their reality and
or buy a
change their
Harley
life.
or
Right.
Whatever it is.
The crisis of midlives.
So we, without dragging the year on, it started with a road trip. Actually, we decided to get in the car because part of the road trip, part of the reason that we started road tripping is because I couldn't deal with planes.
Oh, okay.
And because I hadn't worked through that stuff. But anyway, we were in Idaho Falls, I think, on our way down to California, via Utah, etc. We stopped randomly at a garage sale. There was a sign on the side of the road, and we stopped for no reason.
Another sign.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
an actual sign.
A real sign.
So we bought.
Your life-changing moment here.
We bought some CDs by Wayne Dyer. Speaking.
Nice.
And it previously, before I started law school, or maybe in the first few months, a psychic told me to read one of his books. And I was like, whatever. I had the book, but I didn't ever read it. And he, for some reason, was a message to me over time. And then we saw him on PBS. And then these CDs appeared. And
What was interesting is when the initial ones we bought, the cases were empty, so we had to turn around and drive back and.
So it was like, no, not those ones.
Not
These are
these
the
ones.
ones.
These are the ones. Yeah. So we listened to that the whole way around the western part of the US.
As you're taking a road trip, you had the perfect
Yeah.
companion.
Hours and hours and
Hours
hours
of it.
and hours.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is so.
So I don't know how many times we sat in the car going,
There was a lot.
Yeah, isn't it? I love that when you're with someone you care about and you have those moments, right?
yeah. So we've been ardent road trippers ever since, I think.
And during that year, other teachers that appeared, it was surreal. Actually, the whole year we met the Dalai Lama. We actually met Wayne Dyer. We, who were some of the? I ended up at a meditation retreat totally by accident.
Whoopi Goldberg we saw.
Yeah,
Wow.
George Bush,
George W.
just different
Bush.
perspectives,
Yeah.
right?
All in the space of a year. And
Yeah, we've never had a year of that magnitude since.
Yeah.
Not that it haven't been good years.
I think what dawned on me on that trip too was we'd both been in the corporate world. Marcy's a lawyer and me in banking and insurance. And when we had the opportunity to build something with an entrepreneurial spirit, we did exactly what we did before. We just built another replica of the corporations we left. That was an interesting thought, that given the freedom and the choice and the chance to go build something, our natural numbers instinct made us go build what we just left.
Mm-hmm.
So we will never do that again. But it was such an ingrained automatic thing for us to do. So even given the freedom of choice to build something,
Right.
we replicated it.
Wait,
So isn't that an interesting
Wait,
moment?
over here.
We're left trying to solve the problem with the original thinking that created it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Even given a couple of $1 million of investor money, the freedom to do it, and being able to write our own pitch, build our own fortune.
Part of it, though, is because there was investors, etc. Because there's that expectation, or what you believe is the expectation that someone else has of you, and that's a thread through my entire life.
Man, Mr.
Wakefield,
you get the mic again.
Something that I've noticed, so I'll say this again because I haven't said it in front of you guys. And something I came to realize with people watching, and I'll try to make it very short, and that is, I realize when a person is alone, and they know that they are alone, they will behave naturally. They'll talk out loud, they'll pick the nose, they'll sing off key, they'll dance like no one's watching because no one is. But all kinds of weird isms and nuances and neuropathies will come out. That's what happens. And it happens to everyone. As soon as a human knows that they are in the presence of another, and it doesn't matter if it's in person, if they know they're being listened to, if they know they're being watched, what I realize is a human will attempt to act naturally. When they're alone, they behave naturally. if they know they're in the principle, so right now we're all attempting to be as natural as possible. You're on stage as soon as there's another human. The relationship with numbers that I'm going to attach to that is I notice that people have predictable humor, have predictable behavior when they see certain numbers, depending on how they're attached to those numbers.
As in, like, what happened to you?
Mm-hmm.
The predictable way it was going to go was, yeah, okay, we're going to do this again.
People's behavior can be automatic.
Yeah.
Certain numbers that they're attached to for certain reasons,
Mhm.
not reasons you can really touch,
Mhm.
but an experience. And there's a number. There's a number. And I'm not trying to get woo. I notice this is true.
Mhm.
People see certain numbers in their bank account, and that decides how they're going to be acting for the next little while.
And that's fear sometimes. That's
Yeah.
the way I feel. You know,
Fear
you
of
get
love.
scared.
Just that simple.
Yeah.
But some people are attached to numbers in an oddly predictable way.
It drives their emotions.
I want to point to something with that. Because you hear a lot of things about research and statistics, and we've found this, and we've found that. So we study humans, and we find out different trends about how humans behave or how things operate. And I think that all that stuff is accurate because we're seeing how a human's behaving in the natural environment. And I think that once you become aware of some of those things, like there's a lot of people who run around going, no, that's how it is, man. I've seen the research. That's how that's done. And I go, yeah, I totally get that. And the people that you're researching are probably not aware that that's how it is. And now that you're done the research, people are aware of it so that they can notice it in their real lives when they're walking around. They go, oh, this is really weird. I feel super insecure because I'm broke. Like, what's that about? Because I got a great family and I've got this and I've got that and I've got this and this. And I feel like inadequate because I'm broke. Well, now that you're noticing that, you can start to like do something about it and shift your context and your thinking around it. So you're no longer a default, right? So I totally agree with you, but I wanted to point that out for listeners that, you're not doomed. Like now that you're aware of something, it's like you have an opportunity, right?
You do.
So, yeah.
I don't think ever once we sat down and thought, what would we love to do? It was an automated response. Like I just turned 62, and only now in my life am I actually saying what do I really want to do? What do
And
I
it's
really
a struggle,
want?
like
And
that.
it still
that's
is a
important
struggle.
too. It's a struggle.
Yeah.
What's
even
the
at 60.
struggle? Is it in being of service to others? Like it's not my time yet. Is it that kind of dialogue?
I think for me it's trusting whatever's out there is going to look after me, and that's been a constant struggle.
Surrender.
And having faith that if I do the right thing will happen. Like I have been programmed, if I'm broke, I'll go work, whatever that is. Like if I'm scared, I'll go work. So I've had always this dilemma of, yes, I trust God, yes, I have a deep belief that there's something greater than me out there. However, I've generally treated whatever is out there, God, as like my emergency fund. It's like, get me out of this one.
That's so great. That's so great.
And I see that in a lot of people. It's, oh fuck, if you get me out of this one, I promise.
Is that a hashtag? Hashtag God's not your emergency fund?
Yeah.
I think it's a new one.
Yeah,
But great, man.
Actually believing that the right thing gets the right result.
Right.
Really believing that. Because I don't think we're raised like that.
No, we're not. We're raised by default.
Yeah.
Because by default, the brain is meant to protect you.
Yeah.
So the way that you protect yourself is to go to school, get good grades, get a good job, do a safe and predictable job, right? And get the pension and all that. And then if you're lucky, you'll make it to retirement and you'll have enough money to live until you die.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You made it through life, right? And none of that's very exciting.
No,
and none of that.
It's not.
Right? Yeah.
There are aspects of that career that I've loved, and it's all been people. None of it's been the numbers. And I'm not a guy who actually, on the surface, will say I care about winning, but I program deep down.
Of course, yeah.
Program deep down, you do.
Yeah.
You can't help it.
You can change the context for what winning actually looks like.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So I would say that you are a champion for winning, and for others to win. It's just your context for it has pivoted.
It's
shifted.
Right, because I think it was different for you in the past as a more junior.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get to the top, whatever the top is. Okay, and you got to make X X number of dollars, but I don't know what the number is either. And I've spent the time walking on the beach with a lot of very wealthy people, and I've asked often, so what's the number? Going back to the Wakefield's incredible poem earlier.
Thank you.
There is no number. Like, is it 3 million, a million, 50 million, a billion, million, billion? As
Well, that
Yeah.
really brings me back to, I can't remember what the exact phrase was. Shockingly, there was a lot of phrases, but about the never being able to fill the hungry belly.
We've been run by the numbers, like being run by the bulls. We've been done like dinner, but the belly never full.
Exactly.
Yes, done like dinner with the belly never full.
And it's interesting that came up today too, because I was just listening to some podcasts with Gabor Mate. I don't know if you know who he is, but and he has a book, of course, called, I think, The Hungry Ghosts.
Yes, he has several books.
Right, but
I think
the
that's-
one that relates to that is The Hungry Ghosts, and and I never thought in my life I would get to a point, and I never thought I would get to a point that the belly was never full, and I probably wouldn't have even said in before the dismantling, as I like to call it, I wouldn't have said that I was that person whose belly was never full. But when I look at it now, it wasn't. You know, it needed a better car. It wasn't an obsession, but, well, I have to have a better car because I have this title, like, or aspiring to have certain things or titles. Like, it didn't have to be material things, but titles, attention, praise, those kind of things.
Yeah.
I get fear even now because when I got sober 20 years ago, I lost everything. Like, everything. I was living in a divorce motel where you would call the furniture retro. But it was not retro.
Mid-century
It had that kind of musty smell of puke and urine and dirty socks.
Retro.
But I
I
lost
don't have a candle for that.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Called people.
Yeah. So that brought its whole old new set of fears. You know, and I still live with that fear of losing stuff. So I have this constant battle between faith and managing it myself. And I grab it back and then I give it and then I grab it back and give it. And we both talk about that regularly. And the process of spiritual development in Alcoholics Anonymous is based on filling that hole that Wakefield was talking about with God. And that is a lifetime process. It's not something that you win at. There's no graduation. There's no moment when I've arrived. Although I do get moments in my competitive brain where I feel I should be more spiritually advanced.
You're more spiritual than the person beside you.
I think you develop a spiritual ego,
totally.
which is.
I think we all do that on a certain level.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling, and you suddenly go, "Oh, I'm doing it again." Like
Spiritual ego.
yeah, I'm actually.
Don't tell me about being present.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a term that really.
I turned my back on your ass.
I am present.
Present right here.
There's a term that really grates me in when people describe themselves as awakened.
Yeah.
I get it, and I'm not actually judging that, but it grates on me because I that's almost saying I've become a superior being in some way. You know, so it's no different than the guy in the corporate world. We just the egos that I've won at spirituality.
Yeah. They call that the arrival syndrome.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple more minutes. Wake.
No, it's just the flip side of that is the competition of suffering.
Yeah.
So we don't need to go there. It's just
That's a whole different discussion. I'd love to have that.
Thanks.
sometime.
And we love to have you.
Gabber-matting. More
It's clear.
gabber-matting.
Yeah.
It's clear that all of our guests need to come back for like a second round because there is really, truly a richness to conversation without borders, to get to know one another at a different level, and man, we could talk for hours when that is the topic of conversation. And I really appreciate you guys for playing the game, being willing to play the game.
It was a great experience for me.
Yeah. Well, you've been on many podcasts as of late, and I listened to them, and it's like, yeah, that's not what we're going to talk about on the Jess, which is perfect. It's like you got to talk about all those things, and that's not what we're going to talk about here.
Well, conversation should never be the same.
No.
I would like to, I think there's a ton that somebody could listen to and pull out of there. And sometimes advice is overrated, I get that. But I'm curious if you have something, given the conversation we had today. Someone's listening, they're dealing with something. I'm just curious to know, regardless of what that thing is, because ultimately if you boil it down, it's all the same thing. It's something that you're faced with, that you don't want to deal with, or you're afraid to deal with, or whatever. And it's all relative. My problem would be this small, your problem's this small, but it's relative. I got this thing I'm dealing with. So what do you say to those people who are facing something that breaking
They
down?
both pointed at each
Default.
other.
Yeah, default. I don't know that I would have advice for someone dealing with something, but one of the things for me that has helped is really understanding how everything is connected and that the problem is part of something bigger down the road. And there's no doubt about that. There is no question about that. And then also understanding how connected we all are and that we're really just stardust, baby. We're all
So if
part of a whole.
Yeah.
the first part that you said that everything's sort of connected. So what I heard in that is that basically if I ignore my problems today, if I pretend that they're not real, or if I say one day, someday when I get this dealt with, I'll deal with that, that likely isn't a very good plan. Is that fair?
No, like we have a saying, if you don't learn the lesson the first time it's presented to you, you get to keep relearning the lesson.
Right.
It
Yes.
keeps
And we've done
presenting
that a
itself.
number of times.
Oh yeah.
That's part of being human, but
So,
yeah,
so
totally
the
got that.
takeaway really is be aware of the lesson that's being made available for you to learn.
Yes.
Because at some point, you will learn it.
And it'll be much louder than the first time.
It's just like, how much do you need to learn before you get the lesson?
Right.
And Tony, I'd love to hear from you as well.
So I'm not going to give advice because I'm divorced, recovering alcoholic. What I will say, I have a tool that has been absolutely critical to every moment, good and bad, in my life. And I learned it in AA, and it's a serenity prayer. And it's, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And our learning process is the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah.
And that links to what Marcy said about
Absolutely.
you learn the lesson or you get to fucking relearn the lesson. So that's
critical.
not advice, I realise, but it is, that's been my mantra in good and bad times. And
Those things are more, I find, usually more helpful than advice, because advice is like, hey, I got this problem right now today, can you help me with that? But things like that are things you can take with you and help you deal with anything that you're dealing with in any moment, right?
the older I get, the more I seem to know less.
Isn't
More
that true?
things change, that's just the reality.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, everything that I thought was real in the morning of my life, and this comes from Wayne Dyer, has turned out to be a lie in the afternoon of my life.
Oh, that's great. I just want to say, like, with all of that said, we talked about the safe route. We talked about what's perceived to be the safe route, and all that, and kind of living life with passion and courage. And ultimately, I think what humans are trying to do, which is really a feeble effort, is to avoid pain and to avoid breakdowns. And the reality of it is, it's going to happen inevitably. No matter what, you're going to deal with stuff. Things are going to happen. Things are going to be unexpected, and you have a choice. You can live a life the way that you think you're supposed to live your life, to avoid as many of those things as you possibly can, and still have to deal with the shit. Or you can go out and take life by the horns and go and live your life and do your life and still deal with the stuff, and you'll have a lot more power likely and be more fulfilled on the other side of it.
I agree. We have this concept that there's an arrival point and it's a big house and a Lamborghini.
Right.
There is no arrival point.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the point of this whole podcast is there's no point. And you can just like let all that shit go.
There's no number.
No number to get to, no destination to arrive at. You have arrived. So welcome. And
the ones that are having a
that's
really
it.
hard time dealing with that, you get to deal with that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now.
Totally. And if you don't want to deal with it, it'll be there until you're ready to deal with it, because it's actually not going anywhere.
And at the end of the day, when you leave this current life, if you haven't learned your lessons,
You're coming back.
You're coming back.
Yeah. Can people be in touch if anyone's touched, moved, and inspired, such that they actually
Yeah,
want
sure.
to reach out? And okay, great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm on social, so I can be reached on LinkedIn at Mrs. Craft with 2 F's. And I'm not sure, I don't want to put an email on.
No,
but
that works.
just-
No, that's fine.
yeah.
You're on
That's great.
Instagram
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah.
And we'll post some of those links in the show notes as well,
Yeah.
just so
Yeah.
that it's easy to reference. And how about you, Tony? How can people find
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn.
Yes, you are.
I am active on there, and you can actually reach me at the Grand. If you call the Grand, you can press 1 for me.
you? Yeah,
Awesome.
awesome.
Speak to me
Call the
directly.
Grand and press 1. Really great. Well, thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for coming.
Incredible.
Wake, thanks for
Thanks,
dropping
man.
your
Thanks to everybody.
wisdom and your work. Aaron, thank you for being quietly
Thanks, Aaron.
awesome in the background.
I'm never going to forget what Wade did today.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know.
It's
It's
incredible.
so great. Have a great Saturday, and we'll see you next week.
Woo! Okay, we can all be normal now.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. So I'm really curious because we could have gone a zillion
Yeah.
different ways,
Yeah.
for sure.
Or for hours.
For hours,
Yeah.
right? Which is why we got to do it again. But I'm curious because David and I have had this conversation about the podcast.
Yeah.
There's a conversation that goes on in your head that says like, oh, everybody's doing this. There's a zillion, because we don't necessarily, we're not going, oh, we're going to be personal development guys.
Right,
We're not
right,
doing
right.
that. We're going,
Yeah.
hey, look, this is our lives. This is the stuff
Yeah.
that we deal with. Does anyone else deal with this stuff?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we had this story going on, like, oh, this is like a saturated market,
Yeah.
whatever that means and everything. But what I realize is that I follow so many different people for different reasons, and I get different things
Yeah.
from different people. And you might really connect with someone like Wayne Dyer, and I
Yeah.
might really connect with in Tony Robbins,
Right.
whatever, or both, or whatever. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious if there was like a takeaway, if you want, because I get there's a ton there.
Yeah.
But what was really the connection? Why were you guys vibing so hard on the Wayne Dyer? Like, what were you getting from it?
It was really, I would say 2 things. So, and of course, none of this stuff is super new. It's nothing that we've never heard
sure.
before.
These are
But-
thousands-year-old
but
teachings.
he,
Yeah.
he just talking about how connected, like how we are just part of a whole, and that's just,
Right.
and there's no beginning and no end. There's no birth. There's no death. Like we're just. I guess I don't know if it's his phrase, but spiritual being having a human experience. I was like, holy
Right,
shit,
yeah,
because I've
yeah,
always felt very
totally.
old in this life. Like I've felt like I've been here before. And that was one of them. And then,
And this is not our first life together
yeah, no.
as a couple,
No.
not at all.
No.
Like when we met, we have something in Ireland called the knowing. The minute we met, it was oh hi. I haven't seen you for a while, literally.
Because none of it makes sense.
Because this
right?
is my
It shouldn't
3rd
work.
marriage, and we got 18 years job gap. I was her boss.
Yeah.
I had
Like, no reason
2
it
kids
should work.
full time. I'm a recovering alcoholic. On paper, the worst resume.
For sure, yeah.
Right, and Marcy's a 40. You were 29 at that time.
Yeah.
Young, beautiful, smart lawyer. Like there is no way on earth that relationship should work.
I think it might be the voice, but that's just me being vain.
I think we had a whole bunch of moments of aha moments with Wayne Dyer.
Right.
Now, we both don't listen to him very much anymore, but it's where we go back to at times. On the
Yeah.
road trip, we'll go, well, let's listen to old Wayne again for a little, because he's
Yeah.
passed away now, of course,
Right.
and it's like he's still alive when you listen to him.
Yeah.
And he's never made himself out to be a guru of any kind.
No.
He says, this is old stuff, it's me rephrasing it.
Yeah.
So,
That's
yeah,
so
but I think what we began to do is open, and I think that's what you're trying to do with Just Life, is open the mind to
You got it.
different ways of thinking, different beliefs, different attitudes, and I think what you really are doing is opening the doors to aha moments.
Yes,
Which is all you
Yeah.
really want.
That's it.
Yeah, that's all you can do is provoke somebody to go,
People to
oh, like we're listening to Wayne Dyer and we look at each other, and I can't remember what he was talking about. It was about the relationship with money. And we look at each other in the car and go, oh, fuck.
Yeah, totally.
It's funny because when
Yeah.
there are certain people that I know, when I tell them about what I've been doing
Yeah.
for the gist, like, oh yeah, I'm not into that motivation stuff. I'm like,
You know, like
You should-
motivational speakers, gurus, you know.
Yeah.
like-
You're not going to touch everybody.
no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you're only going to touch minds that are,
They're
at
ready.
that moment.
They have to be ready.
Wait till they
Yeah.
turn 39.
Well, they have to be
Well,
ready,
they're a
but
little bit older.
when you kind of what we're doing is we're building a community, and we're bringing, to your point, we're bringing people together that don't belong together, and we're going, you know, bringing poetry, bringing different things to places where it doesn't belong,
Yeah.
such that we can now connect with people who aren't ready.
Yeah, and stripping away your first impressions, because you look at Wake or you look at me, like I'm a 62-year-old white guy, and when I'm in a suit, you make assumptions.
Right.
Absolutely.
When you see Wake, you make assumptions. And I grew up in Birmingham in England, where we got a huge West Indian community.
Barbados.
Yeah, so like I grew up around those kind of kids and Sikh kids, so I don't have the same judgment. And that's not me being better or worse, I just don't judge in the same way, because I grew up with West Indian kids.
Right.
So we grew up with Rastas and Red Stripe and reggae and UB40, and that was our culture. But when people meet me, they look at me and they automatically assume I must be
Rich is
incredibly
one.
rich.
Yeah.
And I must be
Always.
this guy. And when they look at us together,
I'm
they assume
gold digger.
that Marcy's a gold digger.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Her earning capacity is far greater than mine in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
Like her
That's
educational
so
level or
great.
an intelligence level on the surface is higher than mine. But we've been sitting in a law office where Marcy was working, and I'm sitting waiting for her, and they come in and talk to me, not her. She's the lawyer, I'm not.
That's
So you know when you strip away
But
what
I
you
do
see in
it.
front of you,
If I
do
see
it,
a
yeah.
guy and a girl,
We
Same
all
stuff.
do it.
Yeah.
It's just
So
the beauty
natural.
is
Yeah.
inside of this conversation, we get to get presence
Yeah.
to the
our own
ridiculousness of
bullshit.
it.
Yeah.
And then we get to call ourselves
Yeah.
on it, and then we get to have a conversation about it and let that fucker go.
Yeah.
Or
But,
not.
but I think what's really interesting when you look around this room, like the different cultural backgrounds, different genders, different skin color, you know, like different generations, yet we actually all are talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not many people your age talk about this stuff. I
No,
think
that's-
there's something
yeah.
that has awakened, and not from an egotistical standpoint, but people like 50 and under, I think, are in more of an awakening.
You guys have an incredible
mode.
opportunity to change the world. I truly believe that.
I
I
agree
think
with you.
women are in a very unique position right now. We're in a pivotal moment in the US, and I think my view is Donald Trump's the end of the old white man. Like he may be in
It's
power
the
now, but I think he's actually
I
Nero.
think we needed Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt.
needed him.
I
So,
actually
like,
get it. He's he's like me getting sober. Like you things got to get way worse before they get better.
Yeah, like I think people are starting to realize, like, oh,
That's
this
great
isn't
shit.
real.
Yeah.
No.
This is all bullshit. Oh, okay. You
There
guys
you
are
go.
playing a big game. Oh, I get it.
I don't get a pension.
It's just like,
Like, does it make sense?
it's craziness, man. It's
Yeah,
really
so
just
I
really
want to
craziness.
work on Wall Street. So what does that mean? Like, what is that? Like, so we trade shares, like,
Yeah.
and,
Things that
how does that all work? That doesn't even.
You know what? It's sad.
Derivatives.
I sat with on Tuesday, I think it was. I sat with this guy. He's 37 years old. He's got 3 kids. He's about 70 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
And not that there's anything good, bad, or anything about that. So I sit down with this guy and start talking to him about exciting things like pensions.
Oh boy.
And we start talking about, and I'm like, so what do you do? Like, what do you do? Oh man, I work all the time. You know, my wife goes to work at 2 o'clock. I pass her at Deerfoot. I said, okay. What do you do for fun? He goes, usually just working. I said, all right, well, when you're not working, because I know you work 8 days and then you have 4 days off, what do you do for fun? He goes, well, I did family time, I hang with my daughters and my son and my wife and have family time. I said, cool. Asked him a couple things, what do you do with your family, all that. And I said, so if you're not with your wife and your kids and you're not at work, what are you doing? What's your hobby? What do you do for fun? And it was like I opened up a door and let him peek into the vastness of the universe. He was just like,
And then did he shut down or
oh,
open
he was,
up?
no, he was like, no,
Very
he
uncomfortable.
was looking. He
Yeah.
was like, what do I do if
Yeah.
I'm not doing that? And I was just like, wow. I said, do you like to hunt?
Mhm.
Do you like to fish? He goes, yeah, I really like to hunt and fish.
I don't
said,
do it.
Cool, this conversation is not about your pension, my friend.
Yeah.
This conversation is about how do we get you hunting and fishing more.
So one thing I find interesting is that we never include I do nothing when people say, what do I do? So actually sitting down and reading a book or listening to music or relaxing, or we don't take time. We got guests who come to our place in Mexico and they can't,
Yeah.
like, so why don't you just sit down and do nothing?
Vibing.
Just let you brainwash for a little while, let it filter, let
That's a beauty.
clear air in and do
It
it.
is.
Wouldn't that be
Yeah.
an interesting
That
workshop or
Yeah.
retreat?
Totally.
Everyone comes, they're expecting this big fancy day,
We're gonna do
And you're
nothing.
like,
and then we
sorry.
just sit around.
Well,
There's
Uncomfortable.
books,
Yeah.
there's game board,
That's
there's
it.
like a mat for meditation, but we're just here.
How about
That's the
listening
plan.
to a whole album of music?
Yeah, a whole album. Just listen to the
Remember
whole
the
thing.
days when you just hung
had
out with
to.
your friends and
Oh,
just
yeah.
listened to music?
Yeah.
Yeah. You actually did nothing but listen to music. You were just so content
But the
with
conversations that
Yes.
were spawned by the lyrics or whatever the music makes people feel.
We had a moment here, we were in Dublin a couple of years ago, maybe a bit longer now, but we went to one of the it's called a gin palace, but it's one of the bars downtown in the market area. So what we observed while in there were couples meeting after work for drinks. Everybody was talking to each other.
Not one of these bad
No,
boys
no
to be
phones,
seen.
but there were couples actually speaking to each other. And we like in North America that you go in and you'll be in a Starbucks with 10 friends sitting at a table and they're texting each other.
I've told this exact story to
Yeah.
a student. I teach what I do. And I talk about the social things, the humanities, and I say when I finally get in a room with 6 people and it's taken 14 phone calls, 20 emails, 19 texts,
Yeah.
all that shit. It's taken 2 fucking months for us to get there. I said I have a lot of hats. I always have hats. I said I throw a hat there, and I take my phones and I put them there,
Everyone's-
and
yeah.
everyone's phone goes there, and the first one to pick up the phone pays for the motherfucking bill for the table.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah,
we
watch
gotta
how
do that.
fast they want to get fucking social.
Yeah.
Watch how
that's how-
fast they want to hear about your life.
Yeah.
We're
Super awkward
dealing with
about
that in our
Yeah, we
life.
waste
Like
too much
we
time.
waste too much time on it, and
Yeah.
we'll sit there in the evening watching a movie, but we're not watching the movie.
But we
Yeah.
know we're not.
But,
so
but
then
we're
we
both
change.
aware of it,
Yeah.
and it's something we're tackling because we're addicted by
And
nature.
it's nothing other than distraction, stupid.
Oh,
Like, there's no
totally.
reason for it.
Drivel.
No
I
reason
actually have
whatsoever.
moments when I clue in and I'm looking at my Instagram and I go, why am I
So
doing
what?
this?
Yeah.
Like why am I?
Yeah.
And then I do the close and I close down, but
I decided on LinkedIn that I would never talk about our business. I'll talk about the business of other people I meet. I made a conscious decision. Like I don't sell on there. I don't attempt to explain what we do. But if I'm with another entrepreneur or another business, I'll talk about them. That I've met them today, and what that experience was like. So that's using a business social network platform to actually communicate. I actually met some pretty cool people today, and I enjoyed myself. Not, we do strategy and
right.
yeah, who gives a shit? And I get more engagement like when I take a picture with somebody and said like I just had a great lunch and like what a great business they run. Like I love what they're doing.
It's like I had a guy reach out to me and he goes, hey, I might have a client for you. This girl just got $150,000 settlement. What would you do for her? And I said, I'd probably do the best I could at finding out what it is that she wants. Because I have no idea what I would do for her. What are you talking
know
about?
her.
Like, what kind of a question is that?
It's like they're on a plane.
How old is she? Like, where does she live?
Right.
Does she have any kids? Like, what's it? I have no idea. Like, here's 150,000. Well, if you've got 10 million in the bank,
Yeah.
I'd probably take it and find some
Go blow it.
crazy, like,
Go have fun.
yeah, go have some fun, or go find
Yeah.
some crazy startup,
Or give it to somebody.
or give it to somebody. Exactly. Like, I don't know this person.
Yeah.
I've found when we've been low on money, if I give my last $20 to a homeless
Oh
guy,
yeah.
like everything changes almost immediately. Like everything about our lack disappears.
The spiritual law of
Like
tithing.
so can I give my last $20 to a guy? Damn right I can.
You can. You have
I
no
do.
trouble.
I have no
with it at
trouble
all.
doing that whatsoever. But that's not about me. I realise that he's got way less than mine. He's got way more problems than I have. He doesn't even know where he's going to sleep tonight. And that's not me being kind or generous. It's like he needs the $20 more than I do. Yeah. But spiritually, that changes everything.
Yeah.
In that moment, it changes everything.
Can I put a couple crazy ideas in your head? Because you seem to be the type of person that makes things real.
Yeah. I get shit done.
I get this crazy idea. I do that sometimes. Where I get ideas. I'm thinking about I don't know how you do this or anything. I'm not that guy. But I'm thinking about a live podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about at Theatre Grand. And I'm thinking about having other people come, but I'm also thinking about inviting back all of our guests and having them like sort of sit at the front.
Panel. Oh, okay.
And we'll sit at the front, and David, maybe we have 3 or 4 or 5 people who have been guests at one time.
Yeah.
I saw a bunch of comedians do this once. I thought it was super cool. So we have almost have like a panel.
Yeah.
So David and I, maybe I could switch out, David could switch out, Wade could switch out, other guests could switch out. We literally just have fun and have a conversation.
For a couple of hours.
For a couple hours.
An audience.
That would
I
be
just think that would be a very cool
Yes.
and interesting thing to do.
That's something we can make happen.
I mean, longer term, it might be interesting to consider like a live podcast, like a conference. Vancouver does it. I don't know if it's a conference, but it's like
Or it's
all
like a
day
podcasting.
live podcasting. Yeah.
Or they actually podcast. It's not learning about podcasting. It's live podcasts going on.
Yeah, because
people with large followings.
At theatre, for instance, we can activate different spaces in the place. We've got a rehearsal studio on the top floor where you could have a number of.
I mean, that maybe is down the road, but it's very interesting to me. Very interesting.
I'm open
love
to
podcasts.
doing cool shit in the theatre, so whatever that looks like, I don't mind. It's all art to me.
The other thing that we've been throwing around, because you kind of pointed to it, is that we're creating a platform as well. Creating a platform for people to share and people to be heard and understood and all that kind of stuff. We're also creating a bit of nothing's formal, but like education or coaching around, like, because we realized yesterday or Thursday was like people have sometimes a thing that they want to do or share or impact, and they actually don't know how to share it, like literally can't find the words, right? So that's a cool thing. The other thing is that there's a lot of people who maybe would do a kick-ass podcast, but they don't even know where to start. They're never going to put the time and effort in to get mics and to do this stuff. And so we have that already.
Yeah.
So we're talking about bringing people in maybe even more on a regular basis where it's not even our podcast.
Yeah.
It's like the gist.life /
Yeah.
Yeah, Marcy's got thoughts of doing that around a spiritual woman or something like that.
Right.
Well, women in their second life.
Yeah.
So there's so many women I know that are in a second life after kids or after
So Marcy's got thoughts about doing her podcast with those kind of women who've had moments.
Right.
And as she said, they're in their second life. I think that'd be an incredibly powerful podcast.
Yes, especially for those just beginning that journey.
Yeah.
Well,
Have been on the
So,
journey,
yeah.
So maybe she can partner with you guys
Hands down.
to do exactly what you're saying. So it'd be the Gist Life /
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
The soul sessions or
soul sessions.
I don't want to get too tactical or anything,
Yeah.
but in my mind I'm thinking like clearly like there's going to be people who are, because Aaron, like, I mean, he's just here because he loves to be here, right? So if something like that was going on, like if you had 3 or 4 podcast studios, obviously people could pay a nominal fee to come in for an hour, and then we'd have to work something out for editing or whatever. But that's something that David and I have been talking about as that.
I have a
possible
beautiful
future.
potential studio in the theatre. The challenge of the theatre is it's downtown.
Right. Yeah.
Parking and accessibility. So it's
The
something.
C-train.
Is it
But
easily
it's next to a C train
Right by the
station.
bay.
It's like right central downtown.
Is it easily accessible though? I mean, obviously you're the guy, but can people get in there on the weekends? Can people get in there in the
We're
evenings?
closed
Or is
Sunday,
that-
so it's a bit more challenging. And I have a production and technical crew,
Who are
and they're
union,
unionised. So we would have to, if we put it in the little studio office that we have, then that's not a union space.
Right.
So we can make that
Different
accessible
rules.
on Sundays. It's different rules. If I go into the theatre, I need to respect the sanctity of the union.
Sure,
They're
yeah.
there for good reason, and we can't touch their equipment. So that there are 2 different models we could use. you know, and so if we it's really quiet, the studio. I think, you know, it might need a little acoustic work, but I think it's
Mark's
better.
office.
It's Mark's
is a
office,
good-
so it's very quiet.
Mm.
So I'm not opposed to having a podcast studio.
Have you
in
been
there.
there?
I haven't seen the space that he's talking about. I've been to the theater. Yeah.
Oh, you've been there. I haven't even been to the theater.
You come, well, we're going to California on Tuesday morning, but why don't you guys drop down, all of you?
Yeah.
We'll have lunch or something and
Sure.
and take a look at it. So I was thinking, our creative director's in there right now, he's leaving, so he's going to empty it out the week while I'm away. But it's self-contained, it's got built-in furniture, that dirt build, so it's very quiet, there's no sound from the kitchen or the theatre going on. You could walk past it on the stairs and nobody'd be in there.
It's a bit bigger than this, I think.
Yeah.
You wouldn't need much more space
No.
than this.
It's got great furniture in it.
Yeah,
very
cool.
funky.
Yeah, we'll definitely. I'll reach out and see if we can.
Yeah, if we can make a way of driving some revenue from that, or we just get to create
Or
a
we
great
get-
art, or
You might be able to get funding.
yeah, we might even be able to
somewhere.
get funding for it
Mm.
to actually start to build a
least
creative space there.
set the foundation in place.
Yeah.
Begin the conversation for
Yeah.
it becoming a revenue generator.
Yeah, we could house a number of different podcasts.
The new library has a podcast studio.
Yeah.
Oh, see, like that's the thing, right? Because the great thing about podcasting is it's almost 20 years old, and there's
Yeah.
people who don't even know what a podcast
know.
is.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So I think on your idea, I think you need to have more discussions with Marcy around what she would like to do, and then we should maybe meet at the theatre and see. I could get stuff done pretty quickly there.
Yes. When we pull the pin, we got to just be ready to run after the ball because
Yeah.
it'll go pretty quickly.
Yeah, so I know I want to bring poetry as an art to the theatre. I'm not going to wait 8 months. Let's get it done, book a date,
totally.
and I'll make the shit happen around it. Let's just book the date and get the. We're using ShowPass now, great local entrepreneurs for our ticketing. We got new IT in there, so our speed of reaction on the internet is a lot higher now, and so we can make it happen. My bottom line is I'm a not-for-profit arts organisation and I don't want to lose money.
Great.
So like if we do something, I really need some support with you driving the tickets.
Yeah.
The tickets.
Well, and that's part of
Yeah.
the planning and the
We
figuring
can
out.
share the
Yeah.
revenue, I'm okay with
And there's
that.
sponsorship available.
Yes. Well, we've there's some planning here to be done.
Yeah.
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 Definitely.
I'm a guy who says let's book it and we'll worry about the planning afterwards.
Yeah.
Like it's not difficult to execute this stuff, it isn't. And I think the less we plan sometimes,
There's a
much.
theme- there's a
You
theme
just
on
get the
there
guys on the
around
stage
hosting
and let's-
more events.
Yeah.
let's poet.
Finding a way
To bring
Wait
people
for it.
to
together.
intrigue
Thank you.
people
Thanks for
enough.
listening.
Well, who was on the
Using
podcast?
code.
Oh, it was Derek
That's
was
not
talking
what I do.
about
Yeah.
the competition
I do a lot.
of
I can
like
see
the
it.
Netflix. Derek Vance was on the podcast, and I was talking about live events or just getting people engaged,
Yeah.
getting people back into community,
In spaces
and,
together.
and he was talking about how he's like, yeah, but like, there's so much competition.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how do you mean? He goes, well, you've got these giant,
Yeah,
billion-dollar
yeah,
corporations that are vying for your time
Yeah.
to keep you
I.e.
at home.
Netflix.
Yeah.
Right? And I
Yeah.
said, yeah, I totally get that, but I just believe that that's a default as well. I think
I think so
intuitively
too.
everybody knows that they actually want to connect.
Yeah,
They just feel
they
like,
do.
how do I do that? How does that?
So if
Give
you
me
take
a
a
reason to
spiritual
do it.
concept for what you're doing and you just do the next right thing.
Yes.
Don't worry about the competition, don't worry about your goals or who you're trying to reach. If you do the next right thing and you speak about the right things, all the right things happen.
That's the intuition. I
Yeah,
guess,
Yeah,
to
it
listen.
is.
Yeah.
So
Which is
remove
so
the
hard to
fear
listen
of,
to.
oh my God, is anybody going to listen to us? They'll listen
Yeah.
when they're ready. I think, but you gotta have faith that you're doing the right thing for the right reasons. So you examine your motives.
Yeah, man.
Do you want to be rich and famous? Is that what you're doing? Because that probably ain't going to happen.
Well,
I know
and
that's
if that
what
is the
you guys
case,
I don't
just
think
be ready for what it's going to take to do that.
Yeah.
Because people can be rich and famous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens.
you can have
And
a
there's a
Ferrari
cost.
and
There's
still
a
be
cost,
yeah.
yeah.
There's a cost to it.
Yeah.
Sacrifice
Do you,
your identity.
do you really know what
Yeah.
the cost is?
Nobody ever
Yeah.
talks about the cost.
No, it's
The cost
the-
is a rare conversation.
I talk about that about entrepreneurship a lot because I think it's a fucking brutal process and
Yeah.
people are.
It is.
"Ooh,
It's
I'm going to be an
all glamorized."
entrepreneur and I'm going to be free.
You're gonna
and-
raise
no, you
35
ain't.
million.
No, you ain't.
Yeah, that's another thing too about it. It's like if you're intending to go, you know what? I'm just going to live my life the way I want to live my life.
Right.
Put my values
Yeah.
first. Yeah, that's cool. But if you say I'm going to be an entrepreneur and go,
I'm going to build
like,
and I'm going to have a Ferrari and
Yes.
I'm going to live on an island and I'm going to work remotely and probably not.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
probably going to work twice as hard for half the money.
Yes.
And your family's going to pay a price, and your health is going to pay a price.
Yeah.
And you might as well forget doing anything creative.
No doubt. There'll be no energy for creative.
Oh, Jesus.
These things,
You're still alive at the end of
well,
it.
thank you guys so
Awesome.
much.
Wakefield, thanks, man.
Thank
that was
you guys.
You brought me back to my
Turn
my
it.
roots in Birmingham. Honestly,